All right, so which FAANG do you think is going to be the safest during this recession? Well, someone on Blind posted a thread about this, and so I want to give you guys my personal opinion, and let's see what others have to say. All right, so the title of this post says, what is the safest FAANG? And for those of you guys that don't know, FAANG stands for Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google. And I think this is kind of an older acronym because Netflix just isn't what it used to be. So I think the new acronym is technically called MAMA, Meta, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, and I think there's one other one. But for the sake of this post, we'll just keep it as FAANG. What is the safest FAANG during this economic downturn? And this guy posted a poll, and it looks like 402 participants have answered this question. So the 5 choices that it gives is Amazon, Apple, Meta, Google, and Netflix. Netflix has been in the toilet for a while. They lost a ton of subscribers, and now they're starting to recover. Netflix also recently came out with a new ad-supported subscription, which is like $7.99 or something like that. It's super limited, guys. It only gives you like 720p. It removes certain titles from their catalog, but they're trying to figure out how to drive revenue. And I think this is one of the ways that they can sort of provide a differentiated offering for their consumers, something that's cheaper, something that's a little bit less bandwidth heavy. But yeah, they're still nowhere where they used to be. So Netflix, I would say, is definitely not the safest. The next one here, Google. Google's been around for a while. They're also not immune because the majority of their business is, believe it or not, from ads, right? AdSense and Google search is what drives a lot of Google's business. And to be honest, the ad business has softened quite a bit. When recessions happen, when downturns happen, what are some of the first things that companies will cut? They typically cut their marketing budgets. They cut advertising. They cut other areas where they might feel like they can use those resources elsewhere, or they can make some savings by not spending on it. And so I think Google is definitely feeling this, and their latest earnings report revealed this as well. So Google, I'm not too sure about them. Meta is kind of in the same boat as Google. They're super reliant on their mobile ad business with Facebook, with Instagram. Instagram, I think, is still doing pretty well, but TikTok is taking a lot of their market share. And, with Meta and VR, and the metaverse business, that's been a huge money pit. It just hasn't been really driving any profitability for the company. Facebook is losing a ton of users. Daily engagement, monthly engagement, whichever metric you look at it, it's just not doing very well. And so I think Meta is also going to be in a tough spot. And actually an article came out this week talking about how Meta is going to go through some massive layoffs. So I think Meta is also out of the picture. Now, Amazon and Apple, this is interesting. Amazon, the everything store, they're literally in every industry, every business. They recently bought, what was it called? The iRoomba or iRobot company, the one that makes robotic vacuums. Amazon also just came out recently saying that they're going to start to freeze corporate hires. Now, does that mean they're also going to start cutting people? It's possible because Amazon is just so big, and Amazon also operates on lower margins, especially in some other parts of the business like Amazon.com, the e-commerce business, other parts of their business like AWS and advertising. They tend to do better and there's higher margins. But like I said, with Google and Meta, the ad business is also taking a massive hit. But I think Amazon is pretty well diversified. And with Andy Jassy at the helm now, who knows? If he does start to feel the pain and if shareholders start to say, hey, we need to see better results, then there could be some pressure for him to also start cutting people. Amazon also, from what I know, they have a culture where they do tend to exit people who are sort of operating at the bottom of the performance ladder. So they might have to start do more pips for those performers. And that could be sort of one way they sort of gently push people out. But Amazon, I would say it's relatively safe, but it's also kind of an unknown. Apple. So I was at Apple for 7 years, guys. And when I was there, I think Apple was just a very solid company where they didn't overhire, in my experience. They worked pretty lean, but they also grew a ton. But Apple is also a company where they're just so well diversified, guys. They're in the ad business. They do content. They're in music. They're in software, hardware, services. Services is a huge part of their business. And even though iPhone makes up a huge chunk of their business and iPhone demand has definitely softened, but Apple, I feel like, has always been very, very conservative when it comes to hiring. They have a rock solid business. They have some pretty damn good margins, and they make products that I think people around the world use every day. Is it a premium product? Yes. Is there a price premium that comes with it? Absolutely. But there's still a ton of quality. And when you buy into the Apple ecosystem, it's really hard not to use an iPad, not to get a phone, not to get a watch, not to get a MacBook, because it all just works together. And so I think Apple, especially for the diehards, they're going to continue to stay with Apple no matter what. And so they have a loyal fan base where people just aren't going to go to Windows or go to some of the other platforms that are out there. And so I think from a stability standpoint, I think Apple in my opinion, is probably going to be the safest place if you're an employee and you're working and you want to have stability and job security. Obviously, depending on which business you're in and depending on your level of performance, Apple also, I think, will cut people if they're not performing. But out of these 5, I would say Apple is probably the strongest. And so I'm going to go with Apple. And let's go ahead and see the results. Oh, I am not surprised by this. Apple with 58.1%. Amazon coming in second, 20.6%. Google third. Netflix, and then Meta. Oh gosh. This is tough to see, guys, because it's going to be hard for a lot of people. Meta was going through some golden times and some good years, but right now they've fallen on some tough times, and it sounds like the general sentiment from the blind community is that Meta or Netflix is not a very safe place to be. But is that really a surprise? Not really. Anyways, if this data shows you guys anything, and by the way, Apple, I think, has also stopped or slowed hiring. Same thing with Amazon, same thing with Google. And so trying to make a career pivot now, I think it's going to be pretty challenging. So if you're in a job now and if you're worried about your job security, it's tough. I feel for you. But I think there's also still going to be companies and opportunities. I remember when I was young growing up, I remember a quote, and someone shared with me that when one door closes, another one opens. It might not be in the company that you want or the job that you want, but there's always going to be entrepreneurs and innovators who, even in downtimes, are going to try to figure out how to problem solve. And those are the places where you can go and figure out how to position yourself so that you can continue to sustain yourself and support yourself and your families. It's going to be tough, especially with the labor market being flooded now. But if you work on yourself, if you develop the right skill sets, then I think your skills will always be in demand, even in good times or bad. Anyways, those are my thoughts. Looks like Apple is king when it comes to job security. But this is, of course, just the blind community's opinion. Let me know if you guys agree with this poll results. Do you think Apple is still the most stable place to be, or do you think there's other tech companies or startups that you think are safer? Let me know in the comments down below. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.